Thank you for listening to the St. Charles History Podcast. This week, Steve and Eric get a chance to interview First Nations advocate, actor, and musician Gary Farmer. This content is copyright 2025, St. Charles History Museum, all rights reserved. Additional information on this episode and other podcast episodes is available at stcmuseum.org/podcast.
Today we welcome Gary Farmer, a masterful actor, powerful blues musician, and passionate First Nations advocate. He hails from the Cayuga Nation of the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario. Gary's captivated audiences for 5 decades, from Powwow Highway and the cult classic Dead Man to heartfelt turns in Smoke Signals, Reservation Dogs, and of course Resident Alien. Also a pioneer in Indigenous media, founding the Aboriginal Voices Radio Network and publishing Aboriginal Voices Magazine. And when he's not in front of the camera, he's actually leading his band, the Troublemakers, with albums like Lucky 7, which I read dropped right on your 70th birthday, if I remember correctly. So, Gary Farmer, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much. Scano.
I guess we'll start by saying, what is your name, your tribal affiliation, and what would you like the people to know about yourself?
Scano, Swagwe, go Negaso Hyan, plus. I'm not sure what the that's my Cayuga language. I was born in Onesken, Ontario, Canada. That's the Six Nations along the Grand River, the historic Iroquois Confederacy, the Great League of Peace. I said to you, hello, basically a greeting, but in that greeting, if you literally translated in our language, it means, is there peace in your heart? Yeah. And then I also told you my name, Hayan Twas, which translates to he who plants. So it's kind of a literal translation of my last name. Yeah. And then I went on to say about it's a beautiful sunny day. And I thank the creation for that. The sun's still shining on us all.
Yeah. Oh, we really appreciate that because we're here to promote Indigenous revitalization of languages. We have a current local group called the Midwest Soaring Foundation. They helped us out greatly with our efforts to create a decolonial perspective for things for our museum. And that's a pan-tribal organization overseen by Joseph Standing Bear of the White Earth Nation. But they over there, they're trying to open up a new Indigenous Cultural Center in Glen Ellen, which is just to the east of us a little bit. And they're right now mulling their options for what they want to do. But one of the ones they were looking at is to have language immersion classes to try to revitalize that. Especially around here, because one of the newer developments we've had in our region is that the Prairie Band of the Potawatomi have been granted. The federal government finally recognized the Potawatomi in Illinois for the first time since 1849. And while federal recognition is great, it's always been land of Indigenous peoples here. But we're trying to bring a lot of recognition towards that and the kind of challenges that Indigenous people not only face on reservations, but just in general. But we want to highlight the importance of cultural revitalization, the way that we now kind of recognize these perspectives. And I want to see how that's kind of contributed to you. Question 2, what is your vocation, job, career, and what are the greatest challenges that come with it?
I was unsure of my career when I was a young fella. I picked up an interest in photography in my last year of high school. There was instead of shop, you could take wood shop, you could take photography. And we had a dark room in the school, Lafayette High School in Buffalo, New York. And, I was a pretty good football player. I could have had scholarships to go play football, but, that's why I got into photography, because I didn't really want to play football. I didn't like, I was always on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Line, and you had to hurt people in order to be good at it, and I didn't like that. So when I picked up my interest in photography, I started taking pictures of the football team, and they stopped bugging me to play after I missed out. But, I grew up in a kind of a gang-style community in Buffalo, New York, the west side of Buffalo, and it's all pretty ganged up in my youth. And we had a small gang. We had a teen lounge, it was called. Anyway, apparently we were very bad juvenile delinquents, so they put the teen lounge in. It was really helpful. We had a wonderful time as a child. The Beatles were coming in. It was in the 50s and the 60s, and all that wonderful music. Motown was big.
Oh, yeah.
But, so everybody in the gang became cops. You went from a cop. And, so that was kind of my path. And I went to a small community college in Batavia, New York to study to be a cop. And then Attica happened. An Attica riots. And it disillusioned me about, kind of being another spoke in the wheel.
Yeah. And I was 71, right? I think. I can't recall.
When it happened, yeah. So maybe 71 or 72. Yeah. So I decided, I tried to get into Syracuse University, and I was being funded by my band in Six Nations, Ontario, but I had to study something in the United States that I couldn't study back at home in Canada. So I told them I wanted to be an FBI agent in 1973, which of course is the Wounded Knee Massacre and the uprising back in then. And I really was trying to get into the School of Communications at Syracuse University, which was a very prominent school. A lot of my people, Onondagas, are all around Syracuse, New York. And so I went to that school and I studied everything I could in the School of Communications, filmmaking, etc. And then I had to pick up all those courses that would lead me to get a degree in, I don't know what it was, political science or something like that. And I didn't manage to pass the chemistry. And I never was much with chemistry. I grew up in Niagara Falls, New York. It's the most polluted environment ever because all the chemical corporations took over. Anyway, so I went back to Canada after that, and I went to Ryerson. It was called Ryerson, but it turned out that Ryerson started the residential school system in Canada. So they changed the name to Toronto Metropolitan University, and I studied exclusively filmmaking and photography a couple of years. And I went to school for about 5 years, and then along came this opportunity to work as a photographer for the Association for Native Development in the Performing and Visual Arts. An opera singer named James Buller. He was Cree from Saskatchewan. And he started this organization, nonprofit, and he started a native theater school, they called it. And I did some photography work for them. And then, I don't know, he saw something in me, and he had this theater school. At the time, they were trying to train 13 and 14-year-old native kids from a particular res, Cape Croker, which is in Ontario, Midtown Ontario, or mid-province Ontario. And they were a little immature, so he sent me up. And they kind of babysit them, or actually on is like being Mother Goose. Is it on my river, Chickfoot Fall here. And they had a very wonderful man named David Calderisi kind of leading the training. Plus, there was a wonderful artist that I'll never forget, for mime art from Niagara-on-the-Lake. She was part of a mime company there. There was another fellow who was a singer-songwriter, played guitar and such, and that had an amazing impact on me. I mean, it filled me with, this is how I can help. Because I thought if I been in social work or a cop, or that I could help my community somehow, because that was, I knew there was something wrong in our community because of the just living in America and Canada at the time. In the history of that relationship between Native people and the new young countries, still very, obviously compared to world history. You see, my community is at least 12,000 years old in terms of the peaceful negotiation between the five nations originally. The Cayuga, the Seneca, the Oneida, the Mohawk, the Onondaga. And then around 1700, the Tuscaroras came up from the Carolinas and joined our nation because Washington was warring on them, 1702 to 1712 or so. And they joined the Confederacy, and that made it 6 nations. And it was all based on peace, the Great Law, which basically is a 9-day recitation that tells you how to survive in the world forever. Our story doesn't have an end like the Christians. They are from the same book, and the Jews are from, basically the Jewish people are from the same book as well, but they didn't get crafters, and they didn't appear, but they didn't get along. So that was an interesting growing up. And I had to re-socialize myself after being educated in America to who I was as a person. And when I discovered the theater, though, the art of acting and the art of storytelling, and of course, when you think of the theater, you think of the Greeks, always acclaimed, or people give them honor of saying that they developed theater, but theater is alive in our communities, especially in our traditional ceremonial life. She's very active, and that's why our language is very strong in my community, is because the ceremonies in our community, and it basically follows it's almost like the Mayan, where you literally follow the different ceremonies that relate to the growing of food, whether it be maple syrup or strawberries. Of course, corn is the big one for us. We grow, and we picked up a lot of seed from the Tuscarora, of course. And then you can imagine that the Tuscarora corn back then, of course, North Carolina is just above South Carolina when they first had slavery. But I did a documentary film called The Gift, which was worded corn. And it was the Mayans who developed the corn from a grass. And you see, corn revolutionized the whole economy of the whole world. I mean, China had the corn within 5 years. We used the corn because all the Europeans had was oats or barley. You plant one seed, you get 6 or 8. But with corn, you plant one, you can get up to 270 seeds. Revolutionized the economy of the world and allowed Europe to enslave Africa. And that's what happened, how all that went down. It was actually an Indian power that allowed slavery to come to this country. And that relationship between us and those slaves. I mean, the Underground Railroad really was the trail coming north to...
It's unique I don't mean to cut you off, Mr. Farmer. It's unique you brought up the Underground Railroad, because right now I'm designated to be the guy in charge of the Illinois state efforts to round up all the researchers to research the Underground Railroad. And what I wanted to do was bring in an Indigenous perspective as well, because we did have those reservations at the time, and it was North Illinois. I mean, it was all Indigenous land up until 1833. It still is. So that's something we've been wanting to look into further. But
there's a great book. Friend of mine, a young actor friend when I was in the 70s. His name is, it's called Laying the Bed. It's a wonderful book that tells you that history. And his name is, it's slipping me right now, but I can let you know his name. He's not yet, but a lot of our native scholars have actually sat down with him, and there's an artist I've been working with named Purife. She's Tuscarora from that region, also Taino from Puerto Rico. Together, we're working on a film about that relationship between Black America and Native America. And
that's going to be really awesome.
Free them from slavery to South, bring them north. But that history is astounding.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people, In our state, Illinois, they had the black codes, but what a lot of people don't also realize is American Indians were put into that quote unquote as well under all the legal V's and all the different laws.
I think
So
we outlawed Native America.
yeah, exactly. It was all pretty much illegal completely here to be inside the state of Illinois for more than 10 days or something such, which is absolutely insane.
Glad you're recounting some of that history for the people at
Yeah.
the museum. That's great. I'm happy.
Well, yeah, we're definitely trying that. That's our job here is we want to make an accurate representation of history. We don't want to regurgitate stuff that's been misconstrued, abused, essentially stolen from Indigenous people. It's your history. We just want to be a conduit to express it. We don't want to be the ones to tell it. We just want to be a way to show it pretty much. Steve, I'll let you have a question there since,
Well, I was just one thing that comes to mind, you just kind of touched on it right now is, and can you hear me okay? Just want to be sure.
Oh, yeah.
Our story that we tell, that we've told in St. Charles since the start of the History Museum, which is pretty close to the beginning of the 20th century. Like I think most every other history museum in the United States always starts from settlement. Okay, that's when the first white settler arrived in 1833 and planted his farm, and there were Potawatomi Indians in the area, but that didn't last long. And then everything that develops in terms of how they've told the story since then into say the 1920s, which is when it gets really bad, becomes this mythology that they create of everything, and then it gets so bad that as you try to unwind everything, you get lost. Okay, it is literally. And I think one of the things that is interesting to me and what Eric's been working on is how do we unwind this so that you tell the story not in a condescending way like it was told back in the 20s or a mythical way, but more of the fact that this was another civilization, this was another lifestyle, this was another household. These are things that were going on in a way that people today can relate to. I think it's really a complicated thing.
Yeah, it surely is. I remember Cincinnati, which isn't far from y'all, wanted me to do a speech to them for the, they changed October 12th to Native American Day, or recognition of Native America rather than Columbus. And they asked me to do the speech, and I did some research. Of course, my people were all through there, the Ohio Valley, of course, all the way down into Oklahoma and into the Central and South America, because that was our trading route. We literally did follow the flight of the eagle to meet the condor. And, when the Pueblos of Zuni, the conquistador came up from the south, when they met the Zuni, they had 200 varieties of beans at contact. 200. And you can't find a farm there now because the Mormons moved in and took the water, dammed the river and took all the water away. But, that history of our movement and how we, a lot of times, even the 1600s, when the French first invaded the Seneca around just south of Victor, New York, it's called Onesken Historic Site. It's about 1604. So that was the first time, all the men were all on the hunt or defending themselves elsewhere. There was only women had children there at the time when the French invaded, and they didn't find any of the men. And the women defended it and hid and stuff, but they ended up burning all of our crops. They tried to. And then when you look at the history in terms of the whole movement in Central and South America, like especially in Nicaragua, Guatemala, when the Sandinista and that whole war went on in the 80s, and everybody was, basically supporting especially the churches in America were all supporting the left. And so I learned as a young person that the left or right, neither have been, we were a very communal people. We weren't necessarily politically astute one way or the other. And of course, communal is almost like some form of socialism. And of course, that's a bad word in this country these days.
Yeah.
Indigenous people were all about trying to protect each other and look after the families and the clan system and all of it laid out quite beautifully. It's not that it wasn't perfect. I mean, there's a lot of change and upheaval. I mean, we had impacted, of course, by the folks here in New York State at the time. We even had a change in our longhouse. We used to simply follow the original peacekeeper, he was called. He has a name, which we weren't meant to speak that name out loud until things got so dark that we would go into the bush and call out his name and he would return. But we had this, trying to think of the people down in New York State that had an impact on us. The Dutch, of course. They had an impact on us, though. And there was a fella who wasn't in a good way. His name was Handsome Lake, English translated. And he came to us, and he wasn't in a good way in terms of living in the darkness a bit with alcohol and such. But he had a clear vision about how we are to survive in the new environment, the impact of colonization and all that. And in most of our longhouses, certainly in my community, all follow that Handsome Lake concept in our longhouses. And there are some longhouses, especially up in Ganawagi, especially still follows the old way, which is all oral. So the oral tradition has been carried on from literally the 12th century. And people always comment about the Haudenosaunee or the Iroquois when they wiped out the Huron. Of course, Canada was big on that. But it was when liquor first came to the continent, right? I mean, they used to trade rum for beaver. I mean, that's the first thing the British wanted, was the beaver. And so they used to trade rum for it. And it had an impact right up to the top of the St. Lawrence there, all the way down. And they came to us. I mean, that story has always been that it was something about we were, well, certainly there's not a Catholic community within 100 miles of my community. The Jesuits and all that relationship, one of the biggest grossing films in Canada for years was about, us bad Iroquois, dealing with the Jesuits and all, and how we wiped out the Huron. But it was all about, keeping the peace, maintaining peace was the whole concept. And when you think of what alcoholism or alcohol does to a community back then, it really affects them fast. And so, the group of us, the peoples in that region, and it was several tribes, not just the Huron, but and we told the ones that weren't affected to go into all the other tribes, the Neutro and several other tribes. And then we just went in there and tried to wipe that out like it was a disease, and of course it persisted. And that was much of the drug that they used in order to do a lot of the damage they did to move us around and push us everywhere. But when I did that speech with the Columbus situation, there was a professor at the University of Cincinnati, and I called him up just asking for information about, the indigenous people in the region. And he told me there's a mound about 25 miles northwest of Cincinnati, and all of my people were there, including the Wyandotte and the Tutelos, the Lenape or the Delaware, and several other tribes were all in that region and had a very thriving community in Ohio. And I'm sure that's much the same for you, like the mounds that they by the Mississippi there. So the civilization was quite sophisticated. And the relationship between the Indian tribe, because if it wasn't for the American Revolution, we would have been 9 nations. The Tutelos and the Wyandottes and the Delaware were going to join the 6 nations. We would have been 9 nations had it not been for that American Revolution. So, I mean, by now we probably would have been. I mean, I can't help but think as an artist, what it would have been like if the newcomers would have accepted what was going down here,
Oh, yeah. Well, that's...
so would we be now? I don't think
Yeah.
the situation that we are in now is.
No, I don't think we would. And one of the, my own...
of even being the artist and
Oh, yeah.
that way creatively, creating a song or a film that actually envisions that history if it had not been the way it turned out. And then again, it's a very small history compared to the history of the world.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's something we've been trying to also put into perspective, because the Western, settler thought of everything goes back, you're taught in American history from about 1776 onwards, and you're never taught anything else. 13,000 years at least. We've got settlement sites here that date back 8,000. We've got, literally when the settlers first came in, they noted thousands and thousands of people dotting the hills and everybody camping out. And our area was more of a seasonal campsite for the villages. And then they would, the Potawatomi, at least what we know, because all the other tribes in the region, the settlers didn't really bother to get to know, or they were removed by that point, or how because the Ho-Chunk went further up into Wisconsin, all this stuff. But
yeah,
our region is just very, I mean, it would be nothing without Indigenous people here. And I want to cycle back into the way Indigenous people think when it comes, certain tribes think when it comes to the 7 generations principle, and how that dictates longevity for everything. Because if an American here thought putting up a huge paper mill in 1834 wouldn't affect the water system, it just led to a whole domino effect where our river was one of the most polluted. And it's only in recent years that stuff has come full circle. And a lot of what's been used, at least with trying to bring back proper sustainable agriculture and all that stuff, is Indigenous different Indigenous thoughts that have been kind of brought into the Western way of thinking, as opposed to the Western way of thinking trying to dictate an Indigenous perspective. I would say,
our people, the Haudenosaunee, Benjamin Franklin took everything from us for his concept.
Oh, yeah.
And except, they couldn't get over their maleness, because women selected leadership in our community. And so he took basically almost everything from us except the women. He cut the women out. And obviously, even in today's administration, you can see that same thing going down. And the power and the insight of our women, and they're our clan mothers, right? So clan mothers in our system, as each clan in each tribe out of the 6, there's probably 7 to 9 clans in each one, and there's a leader for each clan within each nation. So that makes up about 50. It's very much like the Senate, but it's all selected by women. So I always thought, geez, if we could make the Electoral College women,
Exactly what Joseph Standing Bear said. He said, I can't imagine, I could only imagine the world it would be if it was the women in charge doing the leadership as it was.
They were the givers of life. I mean, it wouldn't be us if we didn't have our women. So we understood that. But the other interesting point that you brought up is that, yes, the whole concept of making decisions based on 7 generations or approximately 250 years. And that's how our traditional council operated and still does. I mean, our traditional, we have a forced government, much like in 24 when the Indian Act in the United States, and it was around the same time, 23 in Canada. And then we were forced this paternal government, which was an elected system. But before that, we had a hereditary system. So when a clan mother selected a leader of the 50 that would lead us, they were there for life, unless they had some issues that were mental, or they did something that was not right, bad in the community. They would be, dethroned, basically. It got have a different name for us in that way. But that choice of making decisions based on 250 years, I mean, I don't know. It's such a wonderful thought, like we just would not be faced with the climate change that we're dealing with now and everything is falling apart. So as Indigenous people, we kind of look at the modern world in a very naive, and again, America's like 270 years old or something or whatever it is. And it's just sad to watch it as an Indigenous person who understands these concepts from childhood, in a way, and to live and try to exist within this. Even now, I'm the only reason I can actually live in the States is because, current leadership says I'm an American Indian born in Canada. There was no line, right? That we didn't have, and the whole idea of trying to chase around people that are from the South who are basically doing all the work and providing all the food migrations, that's a common historic, that's just how people existed. If things weren't, couldn't find the food here, then you traveled to find the food that you needed. And so all of this, what's going down now is really, was very sad.
I would have to agree. Yeah. Well, I don't think it's hard to agree to that. But, well, this brings me to a question. Do you think the Western perspective of history has begun to reconcile with the harsh realities of the past? Or have you noticed an increased awareness with it? I know not from a leadership standpoint, but maybe from more of a citizen perspective.
They've had their own way for 250 years. And now there's people that don't know any better. They know clue. All they know is what they know, and they're not very well, educated. You've been wronged here in America for a long time. You keep it. I remember in Syracuse University, the thing we studied was keep it simple for the stupid people, and beat down prisoner period. Right. So, yeah, I don't know. It looks like it's too late. For it to turn around, and I'm happy that you're trying to do something to socialize people for concept of living. But no, I'm just happy I'm in my 70s now, and
Oh no, I completely understand the way things have gone. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. So then that's another question here. What are the challenges of maintaining a traditional Indigenous culture within Western society? And how can they
say they were Canadians, but they weren't Canadians at the time. They were British. It split our Confederacy in half. Now there's two fires. There's one fire in Onondaga down by Syracuse, New York, and there's a fire in my community, Six Nations. We chose, after the Sullivan campaign, the 1600s, we chose to go side with the British. They seemed a little bit more, they were still marching up and down like this, with their guns. And we were like the Viet Cong and the Vietnam, right? We were forest fighters. So it was us.
You sure did a good job,
Made Canada, right? And the others in all the communities in Cattaraugus and Onondaga and Tonawanda and Allegheny, all the way up, we're still all there. And of course, down in Oklahoma, Seneca's Cayuga's down there. So we had a wide breadth of land at contact. We controlled a lot. And as Haudenosaunee people. And so we weren't ever meant to unbalance the peace, but I got lost a bit because I forgot your question. I had a good answer.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The challenges of maintaining a traditional Indigenous culture within Western society, and is it possible the two could sustain each other?
Well, obviously not, because they're not knowledgeable of it, right? You have no they don't even think we exist still. They've never included us. I mean, even that when CNN just a few years ago said something else, right? You remember? They said, oh, wait, that was us, right? We're always been something else. I mean, you always hear about the black and the Chicano or Hispanic or Hispania cultures, but and of course the white culture. So historically today, the newcomers or the settlers are afraid. They're afraid that they're going to be outnumbered by people of color. Oh, that's so obvious in one like administration that, but as Indigenous people, there was a point in our history, and there's some great literature about this, where we could have just said, okay, these people aren't working out. I mean, we gave everything to them to help them survive. We treated them as neighbors and gave them food, helped them sustain. And then they turned around and wiped us out in a way. You know, there was like almost 50 to 100 million people here on the continent at contact. And now you're lucky to find 5 million or 10 million of it. I don't know the numbers now, but but anyway, they just don't understand their own history. They don't know it. They weren't taught it. They've been taken away. And that's what America has done. They had to do that in order to keep people to go fight these crazy wars that they're in. I mean, this country has always been at war, and it's just this constant. It's like a sickness now, and they make money from it now. So they're actually doing the same thing they did back in the 1600s against the Seneca. You know, what they're doing in Palestine right now is exactly the same. Nothing's changed in their whole history. It's really overwhelming when you think about it. And then you don't see a lot of hope because there's no knowledge at all. They don't think that way. They think only of their dollar. Dollars don't mean anything when there is no economy, when it all falls down. Our economy, it's going to be about who can grow the food, who knows how to do it. And unfortunately, they've chemically farmed everything. So they're killing us. I mean, you can't even eat. I don't eat seed oils. I mean, if you go to all your diet, what are you going to eat, right?
I know, for real.
Right? I mean, and chemical farming is destroying this country.
Well, like Monsanto and the other companies that hold patents on food it's absolutely insane. And I mean, just
overwhelming when you think about it too much.
It really is. There's a lot out there that needs fixing and not enough people to do it, which is unfortunate.
There's no interest to do it.
Yeah, no interest because everyone's happy and content with it.
But you got to be in, people are too busy doing whatever else they're doing to build a mansion.
Yeah. Instead of looking at the bigger picture. And that's a thing that I feel like, again, American Western history taught that way on purpose to kind of recontrol the narrative, because around the early 20th century, you get those sons of the settlers and the people who are either gung-ho that are still very anti-Indigenous people. And then you have the ones that have this immense guilt that's been built up. And the ones that build up there might be a guilt built up, but they're still looking at people through a totally different lens. And that's when you get stuff like in our area where the statues are erected. Despite it, we had a statue in 1911 back here. Actually, I could tilt this around, and wherever it is, that's the remains of the statue. And we had a new one, and they were talking
during the Civil War between Grant and Lee. Neither one of them were literate, right? Yeah. It was Ely Parker. He was a Seneca, who they wouldn't let him be he wanted to be a doctor. They wouldn't let doctors, so he became an engineer. And he was the one who eventually they put him in charge. He was the first minister of Indian Affairs or whatever denomination they gave him. And then they did everything to wipe him out and get rid of him. But after Grant became president, because they were trying to starve out the Lakota and Dakota then. And
And then with the Dawes Act, breaking apart traditional customs and stealing land at the same time and selling it off to white farmers as well. I mean, people don't understand that this was going on, well into the 20th century.
And though, my point is that Hero Snowy Man was the only literate one between those.
Yeah, between the two guys.
Wrote the peace accord between the North and the South.
I know.
It's turncoat on. They still turn on him after all he's done. I don't know. It's a strange thing. Yeah, the ego of white America. It's just too bad it's out of control now, and it's going to take us down. Now, it's not like we haven't faced this in history of life here on this planet. The Mayans tell us that we faced this before, right?
Yeah.
And so, we are the people of government, the Haudenosaunee or the Iroquois, and the Hopi are the people of prophecy, right? And so we prophesize. We know exactly what's going to happen, and eventually we will get the land back. But what'll be left of it? And
yeah, I was going to say there. Oh man,
so absurd though. They're kind of, half of America's waiting for the rapture to kind of take them some.
Oh, I know. Well, they've been hyped up for it their whole lives. They're looking forward to it, some of them, and it's a little scary to see that mindset. But
I don't. You tell students, I said, that's where it's at. Unfortunately, and maybe it'll happen, and maybe that's what allows us to have the earth back. So we can replenish it and nourish it, and I've been really active with the hemp movement because it takes all the toxins from the earth and it takes carbon from the air. Plus, we can build houses, we can get rid of plastic, we can, Ford built these first car from hemp.
Yeah, we actually had hemp farming in our town in the early 20th century as well, and I show people photos of that, and there's like a guy, and I'm like, no, this is it's been used for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years,
Can I just to kind of take a 180-degree turn here, but I spent a little bit here getting caught up on your films and on your a million other things. That you're really an interesting person. By the way, I turn 70 next week, and as I look at the stuff that you've been doing over the last 5 years, I really appreciate how you gracefully moved into your eighth decade, and I think for me it was a lot of fun. Actually, last night I finished up watching Dead Man, and one question that's got nothing to do, I think, with Indigenous people or First Nations, but when I looked at the cast list, I cannot believe that you were on that movie with guys like Iggy Pop and Billy Bob Thornton and everybody else, and doing what you were doing, and not think that had to be either a blast or one of the most irritating time to be together with anybody. I mean, Iggy Pop, I think, is probably a lot deeper person than people really realize. What was your experience when you were doing exactly that movie with those guys?
Oh, it was the most special time. I mean, spend all that time. Who's the bad guy in that now?
Hendrickson.
No, Robert.
Yeah.
That's gotta be weird, him doing all the westerns back in the day like that, and to come back and face, bring the western guy out for one, final thing. That's
at the time, Billy Bob was in the next. We moved a lot, obviously. We started in Arizona. We went to different parts of Arizona, and then we went to Nevada, where all the train stuff. And then we went to Northern California, and then we went to Oregon. We were to go to Washington as well, but the climate changed there for the ocean, and we ended up shooting all that out in Oregon. But that was an amazing cast. I love that film. I see, we're still the only American film, even though it was funded by every country in the world except America, but we're still considered an American film. is the only film ever to win the European Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. Well, very proud of that. Oh, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I thought that it's kind of it kind of goes along with it. I was thinking to myself, my wife and I sat down and watched Reservation Dogs, and one of the things that's very hard to do, I don't know if everybody finds this, but when you watch a movie, I don't care whether I'm watching I Love Lucy or I'm watching the Bill Cosby Show or I'm watching Reservation Dogs, that you don't start finding yourself like sitting there nodding your head like this is my life experience. Okay, this is what's going on for me. And I thought you guys did a great job in there of maintaining at least one or two characters that allowed white people to see how they really kind of I don't know, overemphasize the fact that everybody's just alike. That we're all that because I find commonality in something that you say or that you experience, that means that now you and I are brothers somehow, and I've obtained something, which I think, not to talk too long about this, but I think for you and your movies, that's was kind of fun for me, is to realize you're constantly telling the story about we share this stuff without having to become that thing. Okay, I don't have to become a white person. I don't have to become black. I don't have to become an American Indian. I literally can enjoy the moment and be entertained by it too and learn something.
Good. I mean, the notorious Harvey Weinstein is the one who killed distribution in America for that.
Yeah, for Dead Man. Yeah.
That's kind of a sad note. And then things turned around for him. He finds.
Yeah, I was gonna say everyone gets theirs in the end, frankly.
But that film hasn't really been seen in America. It was kind of very foolish, which is whatever.
Everybody calls it a cult classic, though, Gary. So I mean, if you make it that, then there's a whole niche of people that are going to find it. I want to tell you something else that I got as I was going through looking at your stuff online. I love the Troublemakers. I love your band with the Troublemakers.
Yeah, let's talk about the Troublemakers.
And I think I got to tell you, the first song.
When I listened to it was this week.
Do you?
Thursday and Saturday. It's it's our wonderful time here in New Mexico. The Indian market, big head of America takes over Santa Fe for a whole week basically.
He's wanted to give it to. Because my uncle, the one who turned me onto your films, he actually taught the kids that were bused in West Mesa and Albuquerque from the reservations. I'm trying to remember. I know they were associated with the Navajo, but I can't remember the tribe off the top of my head. But
that's by Totero come from Tohadjali.
Okay, now Gip, that's it. That's them. Yes. That's 100. Yeah. So I grew up a lot as a kid with that perspective of always being said, like, be grateful for what you have, because just to obtain a similar education to other people in the region, these people had to be bused 2.5 hours, to attend the school. And they're not properly represented there as well. They've got all these different teachers that don't have their perspective and such, and it makes it really hard. Not to take away from the acting, because there's one thing I want to mention too, which I don't know if it's sensitive or insensitive, because it seems like a very important person to you from what I've learned from reading. But I was curious more about James Red Cloud, or is it Red Cloud?
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, he was the one. I mean, in Powwow Highway, I'm a Great Lakes Indian, right? Mm-hmm. We have a longhouse culture. Anishinaabe are all around us. It's the Darwin way. It's a lot of up, your way. I'd see it north of you.
Primarily who I work with there. Yeah.
But so to go out there, I left early. I wanted to do some research. And I asked, it was a pretty low budget film, though George was in charge somewhat. This Wall Street poker that was pretty dark.
But a lot of people don't know George Harrison funded a lot of movies and stuff through that.
Some great movies.
He really did. Yeah,
I had a chance to meet him in the end.
Oh, that's really fantastic.
And in fact, he sent me a Christmas card one year. It was very after the film, we made the film. And, my cousin lives in Southern California, south of LA, that I forget the name of that village there. It's right on the ocean. And there's a lot of shipping and oil refinery type stuff, pulling oil out of the ocean there. And she was a secretary at Apple Records, and my cousin, who was really close to me, she was the neighbor to that family. And when she married Jared, because she worked at Apple Records, she still were in charge of his whole, all his stuff he left behind and stuff.
Yeah. That was the archive.
To George, but I forgot where we were at.
James Red Cloud. You're meeting him in relationship forming.
He was Filbert.
Yeah.
Filbert didn't need to go anywhere to find spiritual center. It was all there. He was in charge of the Kit Fox Society. Kit Fox takes care of all the cultural integrity of the tribe, Northern Cheyenne. And the way it went down, they sent them the script early on. But of course, Native community doesn't often, the council doesn't necessarily read it. So I found through the locations manager, I can't remember his name, but he introduced me to James, and James just took me under his wing. That song they sing in the river. He took me into the sweat lodge, probably for the first time, maybe not. No, I've been with sweats before, but he took me to the sweat lodge. He taught me about all the cultural integrity of the tribe and took me to sacred sites. He's the first one that really introduced me to a world outside of our own. And you can see it in the pictograph history of the Northern Cheyenne there on the rocks, right? Those who are otherworldly. And eventually, after my experience with James was so special, he became a lifelong friend who had, a terrible diabetic condition, and I would visit him and support him any way I could but, the diet, are people generally, forced on that white sugar, white flour kind of diet they fed us with when they pushed us all over, just sticks, right? I mean, a lot of my burden write songs about fry bread, and if it's made with love, there's something to it, but long term, your health is going down. And James eventually passed from diabetes and such, but before he did, I spent some more time with him to prepare for Dead Man. And that's where I fasted on one of their almost mountain-like climate, way up amongst all these tall pines. And it was really special. It was the most special time of my life. And it taught me so much. James gave me everything. And he opened my heart up to Western culture and Western Native people. And it gave me a whole different position. It changed my life, those two films, Powwow Highway. And
why go chasing shadows when the truth hangs over your head? I found that plum not only sincere, just incredibly touching and deep and thoughtful. And it's just, the character is so wholesome. And like you said, if it is James Red Cloud.
Well, it wasn't for Powwow Highway. I mean, it came from my study of clown.
Oh, okay.
Your concept of what you think of a clown at the circus, it's a little deeper. There's an innocence and experience with each direction: north, south, east, west, above, below, and the seventh is your clown. And it's innocence and experience with each of those. And I studied clown in my whole theatrical training, which was probably the most. And so to find that innocence of Filbert, it was classic. My study of clown that brought back you.
It's incredibly naturally I mean, like you just feel like you could be very good friends with this guy, or like you could hang around this guy, and like you feel like his friend in the movie, which is a fantastic.
Well, that really warms up to being very politically active. Like, my dear friend John Trudell, who was in that film as well. I don't know if you knew John. In fact, we're just celebrating 10 years of his passing. We just got the time schedule here. You got to get another appointment here. I got to throw.
Oh, no, that's all right there, Mr. Farmer. We don't want to keep you too long here. You've given a lot of your time, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, maybe, I don't know, are you going to use some of this for the...
Yep. Okay. That's great. And then one other thing I just wanted to touch base on, I got to tell you that out of the music that I listen to, and I'm going to listen to more of your music, although you need to get more of it online, because like 9 songs or 10 songs are what I get to choose through here. But in the Cadillacs Don't Care song, right. I tell you what, that is like a great mix of a party song, but you got to listen to it too, because I love the fact that the beat is great, and as Dick Clark used to say, right, it's got a great beat and you can dance to it, but the story with it is also great. So I really appreciate being able to spend this time with you today. I felt this is great to do it in person after spending so much time, looking at the small screen to do that. So I appreciate your spending time with us.
Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. And if you need more, time with me, let me know, and I'll be happy to participate.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have one more question. I promised my uncle this, Uncle Dave. He said, would you ever think about coming out to Chicago with your band to play some good old blues?
We used to play, in fact, I played the public spot there by the museum at Chess Records, but it was also...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The little bar venue there. So we used to all around there as a band, and we'd always go to Chicago and hang out on the south side.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Chicago to shoot a film.
Yeah.
I get there on the 30 or 31 of August, actually. Yeah. So I'd shoot September 1 through 4 with me in Chicago. I forget, it's kind of the northwest side of Chicago, so I'll be around.
Yep. Let us know. We're just a few minutes away. We're 30 minutes away, but to an hour, depending on trip.
My car with me, because I got a number of little gigs I'm doing here and there.
Yeah.
If I get a chance, if you send us the address and stuff, I'll try to make it over to the museum.
Oh, we really appreciate that. That would mean a lot.
Also, I did see the music video for Cadillacs.
Oh, yes.
Oh, good.
I want to say that was filmed on the Six Nations reservation, right?
Community, yeah, and all of this are my dear friends and all relatives in a way. Yeah, that's not the band currently, but when I go east, I got a band. When I stay southwest, I got a band. So,
oh yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it, and I'll be
in the world.
Yeah, some good troublemakers, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Farmer. Have a great rest of the day, man. And have a great couple gigs at the market as well, too. It sounds fantastic.
Thank you for listening to the St. Charles History Museum podcast. This content is copyright 2025, St. Charles History Museum, all rights reserved. Additional information on this episode and other podcast episodes is available at stcmuseum.org/podcast.